Hello, bonjour, Calgary. Did you know that at least 238,000 people speak Français in Alberta and that 90,000 live right here in Calgary? Oui, oui, c'est vrai. It's true. And now, thanks to Shaw Community Access Programming, we get to reach out to everyone to let you know all about our special people, places, events, and activities happening in this fair city in both English and en français. That's right, mes amis. We begin the first part of our program in English and then we repeat it en français. So stay with us. Welcome to our program, everyone. My name is Anne Boiteau, and today we're chatting with Brian Pincott, City Councillor.
Yes, indeed.
Welcome.
Hello, Anne.
Hello. So, Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came about to choose politics in your life.
Choosing politics. I don't know if anybody actually chooses politics.
Maybe not.
I think you sort of end up there. I moved to Calgary 16 years ago, 1996, and I was working in theatre, mostly as a lighting designer. And one of the nice things about working in theatre, especially as a lighting designer, is you get to work in the entire country. And I lived in Halifax, just outside of Halifax, and I looked at where I wanted to live, and I chose Calgary. Amazing theatre scene here. And I think that I got involved in my community mostly around environmental issues, because nobody was really talking about urban environmental issues. And as I got involved more and more with things like recycling and pesticides and urban sprawl, started talking about sort of that larger city picture, I got a little frustrated, more than a little frustrated, and with why are decision makers making the decisions that they are. And it was a couple of friends who took me aside and said, you should run. And ultimately, that's what it was.
And were you involved in that sort of thing in Halifax before you came out?
I wasn't involved in Halifax, but growing up in Quebec, politics is in your blood, especially growing up in Quebec in the 60s and 70s. Politics is something that you live and breathe. And so it wasn't, I mean, I understood what it was and how it made things happen. We had a picture on the fridge at home when I was a kid of my father going after the Minister of either Education or Health in Quebec, and he was proud of that. He was poking a finger in the minister's chest. And so that's sort of how deep politics is very different in Quebec.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. And I understand that you brought to the City Council a French motion this year. Tell us a bit about that.
It was a bilingual motion.
Okay.
The motion itself was bilingual, but it was to recognize and celebrate our Francophone history, Rouleauville, which is actually not an area of our city that most people know about. They'll know about Mission.
Yes.
Well, Mission is Rouleauville and that area, and we have a long Francophone history and tradition here in Calgary. And so the motion was to ask the federal government to recognize the establishment of Rouleauville as an event of national historic significance. So you don't just talk about the Francophone history and do it in English. I think it was fitting that we actually did it in French. So I debated, introduced and spoke in French, and I was thrilled that my colleague, André Chabot, actually André Chabot is we all call him André Chabot, but he's André Chabot, rose. He's a Franco-Saskatchewanian, so he rose and spoke in French. Our mayor spoke in French. Alderman Putmans spoke in French. So it was, we had this full debate in French around Rouleauville and our Francophone heritage.
And did the motion pass?
It did. It was wonderful. It did. So it's great. And it was really interesting because it was noticed across the country. I have colleagues in Quebec and in New Brunswick who talk to me about this motion and talk to me about Calgary City Council having a whole debate in French. People noticed.
Oh, that was great.
I know, it was very exciting. It was very cool.
You're becoming the defender of the francophones.
Not a defender, a celebrator.
A celebrator.
I'm a celebrator.
That's a better word.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
a much better word. And you've also done what you call a Jane's Walk around Rouleauville as well?
We're going to do
one.
You're
going?
Yeah, it's this coming weekend, so it's May 4th and May 5th. There are Jane's Walks all across the country. And this year is the 6th year of doing them in Calgary. And they're a celebration of neighborhood. They're a celebration of community in celebrating the life of Jane Jacobs, who died 7 years ago in Toronto. And so it's just going out and exploring our communities in a different way. This year, I am going to lead a walk through Rouleauville, but it's going to be en français, oui. It's going to be just in French. So we're going to walk around the wonderful French Quarter of Calgary, explore the French Quarter of Calgary, which is beautiful on the river, and we're going to do it in French.
Will you have simultaneous translation for those who want to follow you but don't understand French?
No. I think no, we're not going to have simultaneous translation. We're going to do it. I'm going to do it in French. I think it's important to do that, to not just celebrate the quarter, the Rouleauville, celebrate our history, but also celebrate our language. I mean, whether we speak French or not, French is our language.
Yes.
And I think that it's something that we should be celebrating. So, no, I'm sure people will be speaking in English and speaking in English to each other. I'll be speaking French.
Great. That's good. And I understand also that you are the chair of the Réseau Francophone of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities.
Yeah. Oh, the irony of having an Anglophone from Calgary be chair of the Réseau Francophone. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities is a national organization for cities and towns across the country. And there is this réseau, this forum committee that is about supporting and promoting Francophone communities across the country. And lo and behold, last year, the Quebecers, all the Francophone Quebecers said, Pincott, you should be the président, the chair of it. And I got to tell you, the irony of being an Anglophone from Calgary who is président du Réseau Francophone is not lost on me.
It's cool.
But it's fun.
Yes.
It's fun. And it's great because it's a way of trying to support people's communities working in their language, people working in their language, celebrating, but ultimately supporting on a national level that Francophone communities from Northern Alberta, from Manitoba, from New Brunswick, Newfoundland, we have Francophone communities in Newfoundland, supporting them to be able to participate on a national stage in their language. Very, very important.
And I also understand that when you have meetings of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, that your meetings are now bilingual?
Completely. This is a big achievement. So, as I say, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, national organization, every single meeting now is completely, has simultaneous translation, is completely bilingual. All documents are released at the same time, English and French. Language, and it's great because, and this is exemplary, that language should not be a barrier to participate. Language should never be a barrier to participating. And in our country, a bilingual country with 2 official languages, language really shouldn't be a barrier. And so FCM being a leader for municipalities I think it's an important step that we are now a fully bilingual organization.
And do you feel that there's more participation now that it's
I think there has been
bilingual?
more. I think for an organization like FCM, and for probably a lot of national organizations that we have in Canada, we have to work harder to let communities in Quebec, Francophone communities in Quebec, because there are Anglophone communities in Quebec too, and Francophone communities, Francophones across the country know that they can participate, that they don't have to débrouille in English, their second language, because it's exhausting.
Yes.
If you are, it is exhausting, constantly translating, having to translate yourself or trying to figure out what people are saying. That is really exhausting, and it's a barrier to participation. It really shouldn't be.
Good. Well, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And what's your next project?
I think that we need to. I think we need to understand in Calgary how we can bring support Francophone communities. Because most Calgarians have no idea, including Francophones, that we have 80,000 Francophones in Calgary. I think we need to support those organizations. We need to support Francophones across our city. I'm talking just about Calgary now, but create those places where the different organizations can work together, support each other. There's so much strength in numbers, and we, as a city, as we grow, as we celebrate being the cultural capital of Canada. We were cultural capital in 2012.
Best city to
best city to live in. We need to celebrate our heritage, all of our heritage. And we have a strong Francophone heritage in Calgary that is something that we need to be proud of, that we should be proud of, and that we need to celebrate.
Yes, so true.
Yeah.
And when do you think we will have bilingual sessions at the Calgary?
I think we're a long way from
City
bilingual sessions. I wish. I wish for that. I think we're a long way from bilingual sessions. That
What
said,
happens if a city councillor would like to address the council
you mean like
in
I did?
French,
You
like
mean
you
like
did?
I did?
Yes.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that. We actually have rules that tell you you're not supposed to do that. But we actually have to find a way that it shouldn't be a barrier, that we shouldn't stop a Francophone from being on city council in Calgary. Just like we try, we just made our council chambers accessible for physically handicapped.
Yes.
Right? Because it shouldn't be a barrier to participation. We have made it accessible for a whole bunch of people. Language can't be and shouldn't be a barrier either. So we really have to talk about that accessibility, and what does that mean? So that if somebody wants to participate in their government, in their public government, in their language, we should facilitate it. We do a lot of work to make sure that we translate documents when we're going into different communities with different languages when we go out. But we need to actually make it so that they can come to City Hall, that they can come to government and participate there as well. To be fully bilingual, I think that's a long way off. To make sure that language is not a barrier, I think that's a lot easier, and that is definitely achievable.
Good. I understand that Mayor Nenshi also does his part in French as well.
He does. He peut se débrouiller.
He can manage.
He joked when we did the Rouleauville motion, he joked that he was listening to all the different accents, and he described his French accent as a cowboy French. So yeah, he can get by in French.
That's good.
And I'm not being very charitable. He's compared to
pretty good in French.
Compared to most Anglos, he's pretty good.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.